some breaking news tonight and an investigation underway after a bizarre discovery.
A severed human leg.
The Lake Michigan Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office says the leg was found in or near the water today at the park.
My stomach immediately dropped. Something that you don't see every day.
Sheriff's Office immediately determining the leg belonged to a human. But who?
The severed leg has been preliminarily identified as belonging to
She was 19 years old, working 2 jobs, attending college, and building a future that would never come. On April 1st, 2024, Sade Robinson went on what she thought was a first date with a charming 33-year-old man she had met at a local bar. By dawn the next morning, she would be dead, her body dismembered, and her remains scattered across Milwaukee like discarded trash. But this isn't just another murder case. This is the story of a predator who methodically planned every detail of his victim's destruction, who photographed her unconscious body before killing her, and who spent hours cutting her into pieces with the cold calculation of a butcher. A man who tried to erase every trace of a young woman's existence, leaving only fragments of her life washing up on the shores of Lake Michigan. Maxwell Anderson thought he was the perfect killer. He was wrong. What you're about to hear is more than just a mystery, more than just a homicide case. It's a painful reminder that common sense ain't always common. I'm your host, Roman, and on this channel, we go deeper than headlines. We ask real questions, connect the dots, and bring attention to voices too many people ignore. Today, we're covering a story so disturbing, so methodically evil, that it reminded an entire city of its worst nightmare. Jeffrey Dahmer. But before we dive into this horrific story, please take a second to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us continue bringing you the stories that demand to be told. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. Maxwell Anderson wasn't a random killer who snapped in a moment of rage. He was a calculating predator who had been planning for this months, possibly years. Living in the upper unit of a duplex on Milwaukee's south side, Anderson had transformed his basement into what can only be described as a torture chamber. An informant would later tell police that Anderson had shown them his basement setup: 3 saws, plastic tarps covering every surface including the ceiling, and a sanitation sink. He told me he intended to kill Sade, dismember her, and dispose of her body throughout the city, the informant revealed. Anderson had met Sade Robinson just days earlier at Victor's Bar on March 29, 2024. Surveillance footage shows them leaving together that night, exchanging numbers, making plans. To Sade, he probably seemed like any other guy, charming enough, interested in her, worth a second date. She had no idea she was being haunted. April 1st, 2024 started like any other day for Sade Robinson. She left her apartment at 1858 North Commerce Street that morning wearing a white cable knit top, black puffy coat, ripped jeans, and white shoes. She went to work at Pizza Shuttle, served customers, lived her normal life. Around 4:15 p.m., the text messages began. Anderson was setting his trap, suggesting they meet at Twisted Fisherman for dinner. The conversation seemed innocent enough, just 2 people making plans for an evening out. At 5:09 p.m., surveillance cameras captured Anderson walking into Twisted Fisherman wearing a black Carhartt shirt and a red plaid jacket, the same jacket that would later be found in his house with Sade's DNA on it. Sade arrived at 5:20 p.m., and for the next hour, they sat at the bar eating, drinking, and talking. To anyone watching, they looked like a normal couple on a date. At 6:24 p.m., they left together and drove to Duke's on Water in Sade's blue Honda Civic. More drinks, more conversation, even some bar games. Anderson was playing the part perfectly, the interested date, the charming companion. At 9:03 p.m., surveillance footage captured them leaving Duke's together. Sade was walking normally, not stumbling, completely coherent. She got into the driver's seat of her own car with Anderson as her passenger. By 9:25 p.m., they had arrived at Anderson's house on South 39th Street. Surveillance cameras captured them entering through the back gate, going upstairs to his apartment. For the next few hours, there was movement in the front window, shadows of 2 people who appeared to be talking, moving around normally. But something sinister was happening inside that apartment. Anderson was waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for Sade to become vulnerable. By 12:05 a.m. on April 2nd, his moment had come. Phone records showed that at exactly 12:05 a.m., Anderson was on his phone scrolling through his photo gallery. But these weren't old photos he was looking at. They were new ones, photos he had just taken of Sade Robinson, helpless on his couch. The images are too disturbing to describe in detail, but they show Sade face down, her face buried in the couch cushions, some of her clothing removed, Anderson's hands on her exposed body. She was completely incapacitated, unable to fight back, unable to scream, unable to run. What happened next can only be pieced together through forensic evidence and testimony, but the known timeline paints a grim picture. Between approximately 12:05 a.m. and 12:45 a.m., investigators believe Sade Robinson was killed inside Maxwell Anderson's home. The Milwaukee County medical examiner could not determine the exact cause of death. Her head was never recovered, but the injuries to her remains were consistent with possible strangulation or suffocation. After her death, the violence escalated. In his basement, Anderson used saws and other tools to dismember her body. According to prosecutors, her right arm and both legs were severed. One breast was removed, her head was taken, and has never been found. This was not the chaotic aftermath of an impulsive attack. The dismemberment was methodical. Evidence indicates Anderson knew what he was doing, and he executed it with chilling precision. At 12:45 a.m., surveillance cameras captured Anderson loading Sade's dismembered remains into her own car. He was using her vehicle to dispose of her body, a final insult to her memory. For the next several hours, Anderson drove through the city like a ghoul, scattering pieces of Sade Robinson across Milwaukee. He drove to Warnermont Park, his secret beach that he had shown to previous girlfriends. This secluded location by Lake Michigan will become Sade's grave. Surveillance footage captured a figure descending the bluffs at Warnermont Park at 3 a.m., staying down by the water for over an hour. This was Anderson, cutting up what remained of Sade's body and throwing the pieces into Lake Michigan. He thought the lake would hide his crimes forever. But Anderson wasn't done. He drove Sade's car to the north side of Milwaukee to an abandoned building at 30th and Lisbon. At 7:30 a.m., he doused the vehicle with petroleum distillate and set it on fire, trying to destroy any evidence that might link him to Sade's murder. Then, with the casual arrogance of a man who thought he had committed the perfect crime, Anderson walked to a nearby bus stop and rode public transportation back to his house. Surveillance cameras captured his face clearly as he boarded the bus, wearing a gray hoodie that would later be found in a neighbor's garbage can with both his and Sade's DNA on it. Anderson's plan began to unravel almost immediately. On April 2nd, just hours after he had thrown Sade's remains into Lake Michigan, a man walking along the shore of Warnermont Park made a horrific discovery: a human leg washing up on the beach. At first, we thought it was like a mannequin leg, the witness testified, but then we got a closer look and realized what it really was. Over the following weeks, more pieces of Sade Robinson's body washed ashore. Her torso was found on April 18th. Her right arm was discovered in May, but her head, the part of her that Anderson had taken as his final trophy, has never been found. Each discovery was a fresh wound for Sade's family, a new reminder that their daughter, sister, and friend had been treated like garbage by a monster who thought he could play God. Milwaukee County Sheriff detectives quickly connected the body parts to Sade Robinson through DNA testing and distinctive features: her pink nail polish, her tattoos, and her clothing. The investigation that followed would reveal the full scope of Anderson's planning and the methodical nature of his crime. Surveillance footage from dozens of cameras across Milwaukee painted a clear picture of Anderson's movements that night. Cell phone records showed his location at every crucial moment. Physical evidence, DNA, fingerprints, clothing fibers all tied him directly to the crime. But perhaps most damning were the photographs on Anderson's phone. The images of Sade's unconscious body, taken just hours before her murder, showed a level of premeditation and cruelty that shocked even experienced investigators. When police searched Anderson's house, they found Sade's DNA on his clothing, her blood in his car, and evidence of his attempts to clean up the crime scene. They found the red plaid jacket he had worn on their date, now stained with her blood. They found cleaning supplies, plastic bags, and other items consistent with body disposal. Maxwell Anderson was arrested on April 4th, 2024, just 3 days after Sade's murder. He was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, arson, and hiding a corpse. During his trial, prosecutors painted a picture of a calculating killer who had planned every detail of his crime. They showed the jury the surveillance footage, the DNA evidence, and the photographs Anderson had taken of his unconscious victim. Anderson's defense team tried to argue that the evidence was circumstantial, that there was no direct proof he had killed Sade, but the jury saw through this desperate attempt to avoid responsibility. On June 27, 2024, after deliberating for just a few hours, the jury found Maxwell Anderson guilty on all counts. The evidence was overwhelming, the crime undeniable. At his sentencing hearing, Sade's family finally had the chance to confront the man who had destroyed their lives. Her younger sister spoke of having to grow up too fast, of losing her innocence, of living in fear. Her mother called Anderson a demon and begged the judge to turn him to hell as soon as possible. Anderson himself showed no remorse, claiming he planned to appeal his conviction. He offered no apology to Sade's family, no explanation for his actions, no acknowledgement of the pain he had caused. Judge Laura Crivello Perez sentenced Anderson to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In her remarks, she noted the calculated nature of the crime, the complete lack of remorse, and the devastating impact on Sade's family and the community. "You didn't just kill her," the judge said. "You carved her and you discarded her like garbage. You tried to erase her body from this earth piece by piece." Sade Robinson was more than just a victim of a horrific crime. She was a 19-year-old woman with dreams, ambitions, and a future that was stolen from her by a monster's selfish desires. She worked 2 jobs while attending Milwaukee Area Technical College, supporting herself and building toward a better future. She was described by friends and family as kind, hardworking, and full of life. She had goals, plans, and people who loved her. Her co-workers at Pizza Shuttle remembered her as someone who lit up every room she entered, who made customers and colleagues feel special just by being around her. She was the kind of person who made the world a little brighter just by existing in it. Sade's family has worked tirelessly to ensure she is remembered not just as a victim, but as the vibrant young woman she was. They've shared stories of her laughter, her dreams, her plans for the future that will never be realized. The murder of Sade Robinson sent shockwaves through Milwaukee, a city still haunted by the memory of Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes decades earlier. The methodical nature of Anderson's crime, the dismemberment, the disposal of body parts, it all felt horrifyingly familiar. But this case also highlighted the power of modern technology in solving crimes. Surveillance cameras, cell phone records, DNA testing, all of these tools expeditiously helped investigators build an airtight case against Anderson. So swiftly, it only took a matter of days. The case also sparked conversation about dating safety, about the dangers young women face when meeting strangers, about the predators who hide behind charming facades. This case reminds us that evil can hide behind the most ordinary faces. Anderson seemed like just another guy at a bar, but he was actually a calculating killer who had been planning murder for months. Share this video to help keep Sade's memory alive, to remind others about the dangers that can lurk behind seemingly innocent encounters. Comment below with your thoughts. Me personally, this case was definitely a tough one to cover. It was actually pretty sickening. I must say that while I know that there is no justice other than Sade being back with her family, the way that the Milwaukee PD handled this case with swift action and how quickly they was able to restrain the perpetrator and even have him sentenced, that was definitely not normal, because there's so many cases, especially if you follow this channel, where we've seen the opposite, where where justice is not served, and definitely not as quickly as it was in this case. So my heart goes out to the Robinson family, to Sade's family, and this was completely senseless. But while it is hard to cover stories such as this, I still think that it's necessary, as I stated earlier, just to be a reminder to people just how dangerous normal faces can be. So you always have to be on your P's and Q's and make sure that you are protecting yourself and your loved ones. But with that being said, if you got something out of this video, if it made you stop and think, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like button because it helps us out. It helps this video reach more people who need to hear it. Until next time, I'm your host, Roman, and this has been Common Sense and Common.